Hi, this is Dr. Gayle MacBride, and I just wanted to thank you for getting all the way to the end of season 2. I hope you've enjoyed this season with all of our guests. We are busy working on season 3, so I want you to watch out for it to drop in early 2026. In the meantime, enjoy a mix of rerun episodes that have been curated for you by our intrepid host, Michael MacBride. These rerun episodes are a mix of the most listened to, the least listened to, and all of our guests. We're going to give them a repeat performance as well. So thank you for following along with us on this journey. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. This helps us get more listeners. And please, even though we are on a break, we are watching our mailbag. So thanks for listening and look forward to season 3 in 2026.
Well, hey there. You've stumbled upon the intersection of internet quandaries and psychological insight. Welcome to Veritas Views on AITA, where the quirks of the internet meet the expertise of Veritas psychology partners.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Michael MacBride. I'm joined by our dynamic duo of psychologists.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gayle MacBride. I'm really excited to be here with my podcast co-partner and business co-owner, Dr. Daniel Kessler.
Michael, you got something for us?
I do. Yeah. I mean, for any of the newbies out there who really don't know what this is, or this is their first episode, in short, what I've done is I've gone out into the internet and searched the internet forums and found one of those scenarios where somebody has put forth something that has happened and said, internet, who's the asshole in this situation? Is it me? Could it possibly be me? And that's what we're going to hope to determine. Gayle and Dan will weigh in and give us their thoughts. And, I've taken the prompt and I've de-identified it a bit if there was anything specific. And then you should know, stick around through the credits. We always have some kind of bonus conversation. So, but neither Gayle nor Dan know what I'm about to throw their way. So let's go and see how they do with this in the new year.
All right.
All right. So this is the prompt that we have. It is, am I the asshole if I don't want to go on vacation with my university friends?
No.
Dan, you are like right back in the saddle. I love it. You're just judging books by covers. It's like you haven't missed a step being gone for so long. I think I need to hear more because I have so many questions off the bat. Like,
oh no, I have a lot of questions.
How many years in between being at university? Are they currently at university? Please.
Here's the why I jumped to a snap no. Okay, and I'm open to the possibility that I'm wrong because I'm often wrong. But when planning a vacation, when planning to do something enjoyable, we often get trapped in a place of like, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that, and I don't like that. Like I really think it's important for us to think about these vacation times not in a purely selfish perspective, but from the perspective of like I get to self-determine what is good for me and what's best for me. I'm open to the possibility this guy's a total dick.
I think it's my concern about the nuances that we may be missing here.
Oh, 100%.
The reason that this individual is maybe, or how it went down, right? Like, not,
absolutely.
I mean, you're right. We get to determine our
absolutely.
We don't get that much time. It should be held as sort of precious for sure. But I also can see some really jackassy reasons that
absolutely.
might be saying this. So I want to hear from the OP here. Michael,
I absolutely want to hear from OP. I wanted to make that statement about like the importance of self-determination and not feeling obligated or stuck because friends want to do this or that or the other. But I'm also, I think there's at least a 50% chance that I'm going to come out at the end of this and go, yeah, I was wrong.
For the record, up front, I totally agree. I think we're going to decide on that. But, Michael has thrown us curveballs before. Go for it, Michael.
All right. So this is what we got. And what I've done is, so it was a much longer post with lots of detail, and I've simplified it because I didn't want to read it all. But if you have questions, let me know, and I'll see if the original post mentions them. So, but the simplified version is it's a 30-something group, and the poster says, "I have and he's male if it matters. I don't think it does, but I'm a 30-something male who has a group of 5 university friends, and for the past 2 years." We vacation together, Mexico first, then Egypt. While we've always had fun and get along well, I struggle with how we handle shared expenses. The group insists on splitting every cost down to the last euro, which I find tedious and uncomfortable. We all met at a top-ranked university, graduated 9 years ago, and have been working in well-paying jobs since. Everyone earns somewhere in the range of 80 to 100,000 euro a year, and I typically spend more freely than my friends on these trips. Despite this, every night ends with a drawn-out process of calculating who owes what, even over small amounts like a couple of euros for drinks or an Uber ride. I suggested splitting the bill evenly and even offered to pay more, but they refused, citing fairness. Some don't drink or eat as much. Now, as they plan this year's trip, which might be our last, I'm debating whether to join. I love our trips, but I'm fed up with the nitpicking over tiny amounts. And I'm wondering, am I the asshole? Or is their approach just overly strict?
Yeah, I'm changing my position.
Are you really? Tell me about this, because I was really moved toward what you had said.
I still hold to the I don't think you should have to do something you don't want to do. But I'm also like, four people want to do something a certain way. Four people see the inherent unfairness of things. I recall those college student days and splitting a bill with someone and going, oh no, they're ordering an appetizer and a drink and a dessert. And if we're splitting the bill, I'm like broke and I don't know what I'm going to do. And like having that anxiety. And I imagine his friend's in that same spot. Like he says he spends freely and is happy to throw a little extra in, but we all know about the tragedy of the commons. And I just don't see this being, I think his friends are, it's annoying, but I don't know that his friends are out of base here, or out of line here.
But his friends aren't telling him not to come. He's saying, this is making me feel really uncomfortable. I'm aware that I have a set of habits that is really kind of adding a stress to the group. If I don't go, then they have the trip that they maybe want without the burden of how I choose to spend.
This feels more like I don't like what they're doing, so I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Interesting. I don't entirely disagree. I think I would love to see these friends have a really good conversation around money. But I can also see just like, I don't know, I see these guys once a year. We travel once a year. I love the idea of the traditions, but I don't think he's an asshole. Like I think there's some opportunities for communication, right? To have a good conversation. But I do think the post here, what I do appreciate about how he's framed this is he hasn't framed it as anyone is wrong. He hasn't come down in that really hard way, at least the way Michael has summarized this, right? Which is, I think, sometimes where we get that assholeness is someone is in this absolute black and white kind of position. And he's not doing that. He's allowing for the differences, but you're right. He's sort of taking his ball and going home. He's kind of giving up and sort of resigned that he can't solve this with his friends, which I do think this is solvable.
Yeah, I think that and when you're in a group of people, we're going to have differences, and when we look at conflicts in groups, and Gail, you and I have talked about this when we talked about going into business together, because long before we were business partners, we were friends. And my biggest concern, and I think your biggest concern as well, was like, if we go into business together, what if there's financial things that happen and it ends up harming our friendship? Because that's what we didn't want, and we enjoy those get-togethers with our spouses and dinners and laughing and joking, and that could be easily poisoned by money. And what I hear his friends doing is saying, hey, like I don't want our relationship to be poisoned by money, and the best way to do that is for us all to be sure that we each pay our own way. And while that may not be comfortable for OP, and is annoying, okay, sure. Like he may not care if he spends a little extra and include his, even if he covers some of theirs, he probably doesn't care.
No, I totally agree. I can hear that from him too.
Yeah, but I don't so I don't think he's being a selfish prick at all.
No, not at all. But I think it is giving up really quickly.
I just it's hard to, just because things come out in the end just fine doesn't mean that added tension. Like I could totally see at the end of this trip, this guy says, you know what, I spend way more than everyone else does. I always get a second drink. You guys don't drink. Let me cover a bunch extra so that everyone's like, hey, that's really cool.
Yeah.
But I also see the same people the whole time during the trip going, oh my God, he's getting another drink.
Yeah.
That's 10 euros split 5 ways. So I just spent personally another €2 on that guy's drink. Like I could totally see that happening.
For sure. Yeah. And I think a couple of things. One, just because it's tedious at the end of the night doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it in that sense of preserving the friendship. I mean, you talked about our friendship, Dan, and the way we communicate about money. And sometimes we will over communicate about money, and then we over communicating about the money. But at the end of the day, I think over communicating about the money is the thing
thing that preserves the friendship. So I think there's that. I think there's also a misguided notion that friendships should just work. And with friends, right, we don't need to put this effort in, except if you flip that around to probably the very best friend that you have in your life, ideally it is your romantic partner, right? We also understand that couples work is important. Why? Because that relationship takes work. Why would we assume that a romantic relationship would take work in quote unquote couples therapy and not also assume that those friends in our lives, those people that we're really close to, sometimes we need to be as attentive to communication patterns and relationship patterns just as we would in couples work. And I think I've referred to this before, but there is sort of a growing phenomenon of friend therapy. How do I work at this relationship with this other person who I'm not sleeping with, but I choose to, keep in my life on a long-term basis, and that's my friend.
Yeah, and we both, I'm sure, seen friendships that have broken up because someone got pissed off over money, and the fairness there, and we have friends that we go out to dinner with that we just split the bill, and we have friends that we go out to dinner with that we get separate checks.
Yeah.
And and if we go out with friends and they generally eat about the same thing, but we have friends that like to follow a different pattern, and with those friends we do separate checks, and that's fine. It preserves the friendships.
It does. And we have friends that we go out to dinner with and we go, I'll get the next one, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are so many different ways to arrange this that are not wrong, as long as there isn't, I guess I'm going to come back to the idea of enthusiastic consent. Does everyone consent to handling it this way?
I like your pointing out that OP isn't saying that his friends are wrong for doing it this way. He's saying that it's annoying and tedious.
Yeah.
Which is different. So automatically that takes him out of being an asshole.
Right. And I think, you initially said something about, not being an asshole because, you get to have self-determination on the trips you go on, et cetera. But I also like what you said about taking your ball and going home.
Yeah.
I really do. It does, the more we talk about this, have that kind of flavor. And I'm a little worried that he's given up a little too soon because he hasn't realized that he needs to invest in that tediousness in order to preserve that caringness and that friendship. And these friendships that sound important to him. They've been friends for, a good decade here.
And I'm thinking about this, if I had to settle up at the end of every day with friends that based on things that we spend, it wouldn't take that long.
No.
I mean, you pull out the dinner check and you sit down and all right. I mean, that's a solid 4 minutes to do.
Yeah.
You split an Uber on the way there. 3 of you split an Uber on the way there. All right. That's how much. I don't see this entire task for most. And then there's an awful lot of things you can pay for on your own. If you go to they were in Mexico, if they go to a taco stand, everyone's paying with their own pesos.
Yeah.
As they go through the taco stand. So I get his frustration, but it does. I think he's a little bit like, come on, this is what they need. This is what your friends need to maintain the relationship. If this is the price you have to pay, it seems like a relatively low cost thing.
Yeah. A number of years ago, I did a girls trip with a couple of women that I knew relatively well. And one of the women asked to bring her sister that I'd never met. Talk about an interesting way to then have to.
Is she listening? Is she listening?
She might be. That'd be great. I would love it if she were listening. I made a really good friend on that trip. But part of it was being really transparent about money and how we wanted to split money. And yeah, throughout the trip, we kept track of money. And I learned that, and maybe our listeners aren't surprised by this, but there's an app for that. You said 4 minutes. Dan, it's not even going to take that. Maybe 4 minutes across the day. When you pay for something, you put it in and you determine how it gets split. It then assigns everybody their amount. And then that way you're not giving a little bit of money to this person to compensate for this bill today. At the end, it just all washes out and kind of does the pluses and minuses in the column along the way. And it was great. And at the end, it says, you owe, this person this much, and this person owes you this much. And it was beautiful. I've even used it with family when we've traveled, more extended family, just to make sure that everyone feels good about money, because money is such an opportunity to have hurt feelings.
It is, and money, like, and I alluded to the tragedy of the commons earlier. This idea that, like, if everyone takes their fair share, the larger the group, the less likely it is that you're going to have enough to go around. And nobody, with the tragedy of the commons, nobody thinks they're screwing anyone over. Everyone thinks they're doing it right, but we tend to not estimate things correctly. It's why you go to a restaurant, you got 10 people there, they're adding the tip in ahead of time because they know the bill's going to come up short. It just because everyone
I've
is
so been there. Wow.
yeah. And every single person would say very honestly, I put in my fair share plus tip and many plus a little extra, but you still
Right.
came up
And you're
short.
still at like 10% tip and scratching your head going,
Yeah,
what
and
happened to the tip? How are we shorting our server?
there's just something about the way humans work in their own self-interest. We're not aware of those subtle differences, and OP may not be aware that like how much his extra drink or his extra dessert or his extra this that really adds up. And his friends are like, yeah, I love it when OP comes in these trips, but man, we got to make sure to watch the money because that dude spends like crazy, and I don't want to cover his drink bill.
Well, to be fair to OP, I do think he realizes that he spends, I mean, he did say, right?
But he may not
But he may
realize
not
it.
fully appreciate the
Yes,
impact
exactly.
and the drag that they feel of like, oh man, Dan's coming again. And boy, he really goes for that dessert.
Yeah, it's like that guy was ordered like 4 desserts, and he thinks he's,
Yeah. Anyway, so I think we've kind of come to this place of like, there are no assholes here, but I do think he's got a little bit of suckiness where, again, I like what you said, and I often use that phrase. He's taking his ball and going home rather than having that harder conversation. You just man up
yeah.
or person up and have that conversation.
Yeah, if he chooses to not go because his friends want to settle up at the end of each night, he's at a minimum mildly dickish.
Yeah.
If he's annoyed by the way they want to do it and does it anyway because that's what preserves his friendship, he's great. That's fine. We don't like having a great friendship or a great marriage doesn't mean that we're never annoyed with our partner or never annoyed with our friends or don't ever find our friends' behavior frustrating. It means that we like learn to provide them with a little bit of okay, like yeah, they all want to do it this way and. For those of you listening on radio,
Radio. Dan, actually,
radio.
go back and say what you said just at the beginning of that, because like that is really important that people walk away with. Can you say that first part again?
I have no idea. No.
No.
You say it because I don't remember.
Okay. You had said just because we are, and I'm going to butcher it now. I'm really sorry.
Go ahead.
Just because we're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean we're never going to be annoyed with them.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Right. And so
except for my wife, who is never annoyed with me.
Well, clearly never, because you're practically perfect in every way. However, every other relationship, even if you are really close and really have deep caring feelings, whether they be friendship feelings or romantic, we are likely going to be annoyed by that person at some point in that relationship. And it doesn't mean that that is a reason to disengage or underengage. Right. This is normal.
It's actually one of my favorite, there's a great Hidden Brain podcast, link in the show notes, about, why marriage is so hard. And one of the things that they talk about in that podcast is that like having a reasonable expectation for marriage or reasonable expectation in relationships, that things aren't always going to be good. And when we work, sometimes some of the clients we're working with are struggling with their expectations in relationships, and they get really angry and, well, how dare my friend or partner or whatever do this thing that hurt my feelings? And it's like, yeah, they shouldn't have done it, and you shouldn't have done that. And sometimes in relationships we get pissed off at each other.
Yeah.
And that's like, we don't want it, but we try to find a way to navigate that so that we still like can get along and like each other. And sometimes things become intolerable. But in this case, like, his friends want to spend 15 minutes at the end of the night settling up and using Venmo or Cash App or whatever they use to send money back and forth. It's annoying to you, OP, but just deal with it.
Suck it up
and have a great time.
I think I'm going to go back to that episode of Hidden Brain. What they do such a good job of, and we need to remember, is that our expectations culturally and culturally drift over time. They
Hmm.
change over time. And there are these small alterations in how we set those expectations that then, decades later look different. And so these
Right.
college students had one expectation, and those expectations may now be sort of set in a time and a place that's no longer relevant for the
Right.
place that we're at now. And so
Yeah,
just
maybe.
recognizing that there is sort of a time capsule effect that can happen, I think is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're going with, what are you
Yeah.
going with on this one?
Me? I think that OP probably maybe sucks a bit here. Yeah, that's where I'm going.
For
I'm hedging
me,
that a lot.
if he, for me, if he takes a deep breath and
Mhm.
says, we're good friends, this is annoying, I'm just going to deal with it and have a great time the rest of the time. In that 15 minutes, I will participate begrudgingly, but as enthusiastically as I can, because I know how important it is to my friends. I think he's a great guy. If he does, like, I'm not going, if they want to settle up and they're not willing to do it my way, I'm not going. The stronger he states that, the more of a dick he's being.
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Michael, are there notes in the comments or other things that we've missed? We've been prattling on. You agreed to like jump back in and answer questions. We apparently didn't ask any, but what have we missed, or what have comments suggested that we should take on here?
So yeah, I mean, you guys covered most of the bases. There were people who weighed in on the actual who's the asshole, but for the most part, most of the comments were about how to fix the problem. Anyway, their fixes were splitwise. There was try count. There was another one who said there is in their friend group, there is just one who cares more about money and loves math. So they give him all the receipts and
Awesome.
I love that solution.
he does the divisions and then sends them,
I love that
requests
solution.
at the end. So he has enough money that he just fronts it all. So he pays all
Oh.
bills and then sends a thing at the end of the trip to everybody, and everybody squares up and know that he's trustworthy, and so that's
Mhm.
fine for them.
And he gets the points on the credit card.
I didn't even think about that, but sure. Yeah. There were several servers who weighed in and said, like, guys, like, really, it's not a big deal for us to split bills. In fact, we do it all the time, and your math among yourself slows shit down. Like, just tell us you want separate bills and we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
And there were several people who shouted out Germany as being particularly efficient at this. And they actually gave you
Germany's efficient at something.
they gave the German words, which I won't even attempt it, but essentially one is all together or the other is separate. And they kind of walk through that process. But anyway, to get to the actual judgment parts, several, the people who said you're the asshole, they said, like, you literally admit that you spend more money and this is clearly important to your friends. Like, and it's only 15 minutes at the end of the night. Like, suck it up.
Suck it up.
The rest of the day is clearly, in the plus. And this is a small inconvenience.
Yeah, totally.
The others like really hung up on the idea of like why even splitting it evenly is unjust. You drink, I don't drink. I'm smaller than you, whatever, like all those kind of things. And then there were several people who said, not the asshole. You can skip a vacation for any reason. No is a full sentence, which is something both of you have said before.
Yep.
You're a big boy. If you don't want to go, don't go. You can not go for any particular reason.
Yeah, and I said that was like my opening salvo. As they talked about it more, I'm like, damn, he's giving up an awfully fun time for an annoying 15 minutes a day. Like, I'll put up with, like, I just got back from being away for 2 weeks. There were a lot more than one or two annoying 15-minute periods each day. Like a lot like this went wrong or that went wrong, and these kind of things happen on vacation all the time. And like if it's going to be an annoying 15 minutes every day, deal with it. Yes, he can totally go on vacation for any reason or no reason at all.
Mm-hmm.
But this just seems like he talked about how great these trips are. I don't get it.
Yeah, this was one that is maybe worth reading. And it just says, no assholes here. Personal comfort varies, etiquette varies, tolerance for overpayment varies, tolerance for penny pinching varies. But as a person now in my mid-50s, I would never want to give up together time with old friends, even if they drive me nuts. You're quite right when you observe your next trip may be the end of the era for a number of reasons. And if you opt out now, you'll be missing those memories years down the line. Like, don't let this small thing ruin a friendship, let alone, the opportunity for good memories. So
we rarely think, oh, this is my last vacation together with this group. Like that's going to happen with this friend group in all likelihood.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like a really terrible reason to have it be their last vacation together, or their last one to be their last vacation together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for another riveting debate and a glimpse into the collective conscience of the internet forums. Remember, morality is often shades of gray and not just black or white.
And, we do things all kinds of different ways. Let's develop the tolerance and the grace for each other to just handle mild annoyances with gentle acceptance.
Totally, completely, totally. I agree with that. And thank you, Michael, for bringing this one to us. It gave us a really great opportunity to dive into things as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Please follow and share Veritas Views on any of the podcast platforms with your neighbors and friends. And as always, stick around through the credits for the bonus conversation about whatever the topic is today.
You can follow Dr. Dan Kessler at Dr. Dan Kessler and Dr. Gayle MacBride at Dr. G. MacBride. Oh, and you can find them both at veritaspp.com. Credits. Tickling the Ivories, Matthew Reddington. Art, production, and design, bringing this show together with flair and finesse, Michelle Love. Recording and editing, turning chaos into something worth sharing, Michael MacBride. Intro, outro, I'm Kelly Buttrick, a VO talent who just happens to be Dr. MacBride's cousin. Cats, CJ, Linus, Sadie, and Griffin. Hosting by whomever lost the coin flip. Interruptions by all their children. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. If you believe you may be experiencing a mental health issue, please seek the assistance of a qualified mental health professional. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, you can call or text 988 from anywhere in the U.S. to be connected to Crisis Mental Health Services.
Thanks for listening. As promised, here's that bonus conversation.
Okay, Dan, you know that my lovely husband and our podcast host is Mr. Curious. He asked a question over New Year's Eve to a couple of friends that joined us, and it was a fascinating question, mostly because I didn't have a great answer, and I'm sure you will. So the question is, what is your culinary low? Now, we've talked about highs and recipes we love. What's a low point for you?
I got an answer for you for this one.
I'm sure you do.
College.
Of course. That's where, by the way, the answer's always centered was in college.
Right. In college. What a little bit like part of a hamburger patty, maybe like a quarter of it or a half, like thrown into a frying pan, and then once it's seared off, add water and a packet of ramen noodles and get that good and boiled, and then mashed potato flakes and a slice of American cheese to finish it off.
Wow.
Generous grind of I'd say grind of black pepper, but the reality is it's college. It was probably a packet I took from the cafeteria. So a couple packets of black pepper from the cafeteria dumped on top. Boom. That I will admit to having made that more than once.
I was gonna say, was this a regular thing? Semi-regular.
It was more than once. It was more than once. But you get that mix of ramen, and it makes and then the mashed potato flakes to thicken it all up and add more, and then the cheese at the end for flavor and that meat for protein.
And I have to admit, that's a bit weird.
I'm not making this up. I'm completely.
You couldn't make this up.
No, it is absolute 100% truth. It's a color. I've sometimes thought about, even though I don't eat meat anymore, I thought maybe I could do this with Impossible. Thought about trying it just to see how truly horrific it is, and I don't know that I have the courage.
I would imagine the texture is a bit strange. I mean, you had me at the meat and the water with the ramen noodles. Like, I was on board, and then you put the potato flakes in. Like, what the hell, man? What was up with the potato flakes?
I think I had a roommate who had like a box of mashed potato flakes that he didn't like, and then they were like left around, and it was a good way of using them up and getting a little bit more calories. I was a active young man at the time, and
wow, and not a vegetable in sight.
No, not that would have really ruined the essence of the dish. to have added that. I mean, I might have missed out on that Michelin star if I'd added vegetables to it. So no, I made that more than once. It is possible that at some point either frozen peas or frozen corn made their way into it, but I don't recollect that exactly.
Okay.
But
well,
I
I appreciate your honesty and sharing that absolute low moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a low moment. That was a culinary low moment for me. And I think I made it at least once, like in a dorm hot pot.
Oh,
like in a single, like just in a single, and you just keep adding shit to it until then you get the right consistency.
Wow.
Consistency.
Could you ever use that pot for anything else then?
Well, yeah, you can rinse the damn thing. You can rinse it out. I mean, you don't clean. And as a college male, maybe things are different now. I've got a college boy. The cleaning process is rinsing it in the sink in the bathroom and then wiping it out. And
that's my imagination.
Figuring that the heat will kill the germs.
Probably, but forever there's probably a residue on the element and burning, and
that's part of that's the mother.
It's seasoning.
You don't it's like the seasoning on the cast iron pan.
Exactly. You clean it too well and you ruin the mother.
Oh my God. We should just leave it there. Thank you, Dan.
You're very welcome.
I feel like we might need to request Kelly gives us a short disclaimer here. Please do not try at home. Doctors Gayle and Dan do not recommend this for sodium reasons, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, insert said disclaimer.
Yes. Thank you both so much. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Tune in again next week for a whole nother Am I the Asshole debate.
We love hearing from you, so please review us on Apple, Spotify, or, well, wherever you're listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please review, like, and follow. Also, give it a share. This helps us reach more listeners.